Twins make 6 additions to their 40-man roster, also agree to a contract with Jake Cave on today's episode of Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Locked On Minnesota Twins podcast. Today is Friday. Happy Friday, November 19th. And I'm your gracious host, Nash Walker. Thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms. You can also find this show on YouTube. Very exciting. Please subscribe on YouTube to the channel for episodes 5 days a week. The Twins made some moves today. It's Rule 5 Protection Day, which means that every team in Major League Baseball had until 5 p.m. Central today to protect eligible players from the 40-man or from the Rule 5 draft and add them to the 40-man roster. Twins had some easy ones. Royce Lewis, of course, Jose Miranda, Josh Winder. Those three were locks. Cole Sands was a lock. Chris Valmont, questionable. Blaine Enlow, questionable. But the Twins had all 6. So Lewis, Winder, Miranda, Sands, Valmont, and Enlow. 3 pitchers, 3 position players. Actually, 4 pitchers, with Lewis and Miranda as the position players. We'll talk about those 6. Twins also left off Junior Severino, who after being called up really hit the ball well, but overall hadn't on the season or before being called up to high A. Jordan Gore, who's got a really good arm, was an outfield prospect, moved over to being a pitcher, was a reliever, and was very good this year. Osiris Herman, another reliever. Mark Contreras, Jefferson Morales, Andrew Bechtold, and Michael Hellman. No, Hellman hit a lot of homers this year. I was covering him in the minors, but those are the names that the Twins left off. We'll talk about these 6. Also, more news. The Twins designating for assignment Willians Astudillo and agreeing to a contract for 2022 with Jake Cave. They also outrighted Devin Smeltzer and Kyle Garlick to AAA. Charlie Barnes was also DFA'd. We're going to break down all these moves today on Locked On Twins. You can follow me on Twitter at NashWalker9. You can follow the show at Locked On Twins. Cover the prospects all year, so these names are super familiar to me. I'll give you a little scouting report on all these guys, and we talk about prospects a lot on the show, but haven't in a little bit because we've been breaking down the Twins offseason, where they may go. Such a big part of it is how do they feel about their prospects? And I think there's one day of the year where you find out more than any other time, perhaps, how the Twins feel about certain prospects when you aren't sure how they feel. Bailey Ober was a great example last year, adding him to the 40-man roster with Ben Rortvedt and Jordan Balazovic. I believe it was a 3-pack added last year. Found out that they really liked Bailey Ober, and now we really like Bailey Ober because he's really good, and he was great in his rookie year with the Twins, exceeded any expectation that could have been had for him in 2022 after being added to the 40-man. So you can find out how the Twins feel about certain players. I think we found out a little bit today. You're not going to find anything out about Royce Lewis or Jose Miranda or even Josh Winder or Cole Sands today, but I think we did find out a little bit about Blaine Enlow and Chris Valmont, maybe about the rest of the roster with Barnes and Astudillo designated for assignment and Cave signing that $800,000 deal for 2022. Jake Cave was eligible for arbitration at, I think, $1.1 million projected this year. Of course, you looked at that. Astudillo also eligible for arbitration. I believe you looked at their numbers and you just thought there's no chance those guys are getting paid the arbitration numbers. I'm really surprised that Jake Cave signed back for $800,000 after the year that he had, in 2020. Looking at 2019 as kind of an outlier year for him, I'm surprised. I'm definitely surprised. Now, he was great in the second half of 2018 as well and was emerging as a potential regular for the Twins. So he did have a good year and a half of baseball and had broken his back or had a back fracture. I think it was that serious in 2021. So, maybe that played into it. But, I mean, he was just so bad this year and last year, too, at the plate. That it's just really hard to believe that the Twins are planning to have him on the 26-man roster. They would have to believe in a huge bounce back for Jake Cave, for sure, to have that level of confidence. But I'm definitely surprised. There's some rumblings on Twitter about whether this means that Buxton's being traded and Jake Cave's going to be the opening day center fielder. Man, I hope not. I think Jake Cave as a fourth outfielder in 2019 was terrific. I think he really helped the Twins. He was outstanding in his role. And also, Marwin Gonzalez, Ray Adrianza were good in their roles. The Twins bench an underrated part of that 2019 team. And I think there's sometimes an argument about 2019 to say they took way too much from 2019. They continued to draw conclusions from 2019. Like maybe the juice ball made Max Kepler a way better hitter than he actually is. Maybe it made Jake Cave a way better hitter than he actually is. How much can you weigh 2019 compared to 2018, 2017, 2021? How much does that have weight? There's so many factors in that. Cave's back being a factor. Kepler is banged up. That's a factor. These things matter, and there's a lot of factors in it. But I'm surprised. I'm surprised the Twins added Cave. I'm not sure I 100% understand it, other than that they need a left-handed bat off the bench, left-handed outfielder. Trevor Larnach's not going to be ready on opening day for that, most likely. So they don't really have a left-handed bat off the bench, especially if they trade Max Kepler, which is a possibility this offseason. Let's talk about Built Bar, and then we'll go over these 6 guys the Twins protected from the Rule 5 draft, and also some of the guys they did not. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever. I love Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday, all of the good food and treats, and plenty of them. But maybe you want a yummy dessert that isn't so full of calories and sugar. It's the perfect time for Built Bars. Built Bar is the new holiday dessert. Feast on something delicious and feel good about it. One slice of pie is upwards of 300 calories, and that's on the low end. Most Built Bars are only 130 calories and only 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. Replace the coconut cream pie with coconut Built Bar, or go for a raspberry Built Bar instead of that raspberry pie. Lots of good flavors to replace any pie. It's low calorie, it's low carb, it's low fat, and it's full of protein. There's also new surprises all month, limited time flavors arriving at Built.com regularly, so check the site often. There's also nothing like a Built Bar Black Friday. Mark your calendar. Black Friday will be a huge event with all sorts of surprises. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So Twins agreeing to the contract with Jake Cave is definitely interesting. These 6 were added. Blaine Enlow, who had Tommy John this year, is coming back from Tommy John. Right-handed pitcher, I believe drafted out of LSU, but exciting. Pitched very well at the beginning of this year. Twins went over slot for him, I want to say, in the draft. So they really liked him coming out of college. He seems driven. He seems like he's got a chip on his shoulder coming into 2021, and then unfortunately blows out his elbow, and unfortunately will miss, I think, the first half of 2022. So Blaine Enlow, when he comes back, remains to be seen. I think he is a good keep. I think he's the type of guy the Twins need to avoid losing. I think he's the type of guy that you could potentially put into a category with Lamont Wade Jr., who got an MVP vote yesterday, and Tyler Wells, who they also lost last year, looks very good for Baltimore out of their bullpen. Injured players are tricky. They can be added, and a team like Baltimore can add Blaine Enlow and just stash him on the 26-man roster. They don't have a ton of problems doing that because they don't have a bunch of guys they can add to their 26-man roster. So they can afford to keep Enlow on that roster. I mean, there's a chance that no one wants to do that for much of 2022. And this is still a guy who hasn't pitched much above AA. So it's a safe add, I think, for Enlow. And then you look at Cole Sands, who had a terrific year. I think goes under the radar a lot among the Twins' top pitching prospects. Cole Sands had a terrific year at Wichita. Had to be shut down a couple of times, but just gets outs at a super high level. He had a sub-3 ERA this year, was awesome. Sands was a guy out of Florida State I was really excited about coming into 2020 as a potential breakout prospect. And of course, the minor league season gets wiped out, but was very good and broke out, I would say, in 2021 and warranted an add to the 40-man roster. Chris Valmont was on the fence for sure, but huge strikeout numbers in the minors. Came over in that Sergio Romo deal. It's one of the deals the Twins made. We look back and one of the additions they made that turned out very, very well. Sergio Romo, I thought, pitched well for the Twins. And I think the fact that the Twins got Chris Valmont along with Romo, the player to be named later was Chris Valmont, is another plus. And I think for Valmont, I think his ceiling is probably a high leverage reliever. I think with the numbers that he has, the walks and just the problems with home runs, and I don't know if I see his future as a starter, But I think as a reliever with the stuff and with the strikeout rate and with the ability to mow guys down, I think he could definitely be a reliever. 32% strikeout rate for Chris Valmont this year in the minors. Josh Winder, talked about him a ton at the beginning of the year because he was dominating. Gets called up to AAA, was dominant in his debut for the Saints, pitched very, very well, then had a couple poor starts and then was shut down with a shoulder problem. And that's scary, but the word is that he's good to go or that he's healthy for a regular offseason, I believe. So Josh Winder, exciting, 95, 96 with a fastball, added a bunch of velocity and has really good stuff. Good 3-pitch mix, throws strikes, gets outs, pitch at the high minors. He's going to be ready soon. I think Winder, maybe the first one up in 2022 among the Twins' top pitching prospects, him and Yohan Duran, because they're at AAA. Duran also elbow injuries. So those two were injured. Royce Lewis added, Twins top prospect, or now one of their top prospects, and probably a top 3 at the very least, even if you're super low on Royce Lewis. I think Baseball America had him at 5th, I believe, or Baseball Prospectus, it might have been, had him at 5th. So he's dropping on prospects lists because no one's seen him in 2 years in game action. And also, even then, struggled in 2019 to make consistent contact and to work with that big leg kick. So we'll see when Royce Lewis comes back what he looks like from the knee injury, and hopefully he comes back strong. Jose Miranda, the probably easiest add today, and I say that not to rip on these other guys, but because the Twins didn't add him last year, he could have been had in the Rule 5 draft and had a monster minor league season. We've talked about Jose Miranda a ton. This is what I love about baseball. What I say a lot on the podcast, what I say to my friends, and just in general, I always say, I think my favorite thing about baseball is the farm systems. It's the prospects. It's that you get to see guys break out and become part of the future. And, Miranda may never be a regular for the Twins. He may never pan out at the major league level, but there's so much excitement around him now when there wasn't before. And he built that and he did that himself. And it's just really exciting. And now you feel like you have this somewhat building block for the future. And Jose Miranda, like, he's added to your top 10 prospect list that you look at and say, okay, who is going to be a part of this core for the next 5 years? And Miranda's now in that conversation when before he really wasn't. Love that about baseball. Easiest add today because the Twins were probably so eager to get him added to the 40-man after not adding him last year. They probably wanted to do it way before 5 o'clock today because that was scary. I mean, that could have been a disaster, as was Akil Baddoo, Lamont Wade Jr., Tyler Wells disasters last year that hurt the Twins. But Miranda would have been insult to injury for sure. That would have been brutal. Let's talk about Willians Astudillo, Charlie Barnes. After the break, they were DFA'd. After this word from BetOnline. BetOnline is back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline is where the game starts. So along with these 6 additions and the contract with Jake Cave, designated for assignment, Charlie Barnes, Willians Astudillo. Mentioned Junior Severino is probably the number one guy that was not added, but I'm not sure he gets drafted in the Rule 5 draft. We will see. He had like an 808 OPS this year at the A levels, 22 years old. So he's not exactly young. We'll see. I mean, there's a chance that he is, and there's a chance that the Twins regret it, but I think it's much less likely to me that Severino gets picked than like Jordan Gore, who looks like a potential bullpen option in the future with a big time fastball, or 95, 96 with a fastball, I think is where he's at. So I think Gore is the guy who could be taken, and Severino. Those are probably the top 2 that Gleeman mentioned there. I agree with him. Looking at who was DFA'd, Charlie Barnes, Willians Astudillo, and we got to see Charlie Barnes this year. I'm glad we did. I mean, the losing season allowed the Twins to get a look at some of these guys. I think getting a look at Charlie Barnes helped them make this decision. The problem, I don't want to call it a problem with Barnes, but the problem is that he doesn't do anything particularly really well. And I want to compare him, and it's not fair, but I'm going to compare him to Griffin Jax because Griffin Jax was called up this year and thrown into the rotation and got a ton of looks. And his numbers were similar to Barnes. Barnes wasn't good. Jax wasn't good. But Griffin Jax has something that you can work with. He has a very, very good slider. Matt Braun tweeted about it today. I think he has the 12th highest spin slider in Major League Baseball. And when he's commanding his slider, can just mow down righties, like can just get outs at a high level as a potential long inning reliever or even a late inning option for the Twins. So you look at Jackson, you say, okay, the numbers were terrible, but he does something very, very well. And if we can get him to do something else decently well, like his fastball bumps up to 95, 96 as a reliever consistently, and he can throw it at the top of the zone, now we have something. Charlie Barnes is a soft tossing lefty, decent changeup, decent fastball, and doesn't throw hard. There's nothing that sticks out about his profile. There's nothing where you look at him and you say, okay, he's a soft tossing lefty, but that changeup, man, that changeup is elite. We can work with that. He just doesn't have anything that is super exciting. And there's a chance that Charlie Barnes goes on and has a decent major league career as like a fourth or a fifth starter, but the upside with him is low because he doesn't have a standout pitch. He doesn't have a standout quality. And that's why I think the Twins designate him for assignment. The headliner there on the DFA is Willians Astudillo. And La Tortuga, fan favorite. A lot of people love him. I can understand why. Beloved in the clubhouse. Everyone loves him. La Tortuga has been a shining light in a lot of ways for the Twins in recent years, I would say. And I think Astudillo, once the Twins decided he wasn't a catcher, once he stopped catching and was more seen as that utility player, but a utility player who couldn't catch, his value went way down. And then the discipline caught up to him, the on-base percentage caught up to him, and the power just kind of wasn't there in 2021. And he had a really, really tough year at the plate. And if he's not playing, somewhat passable defense behind the plate, and he can't, really play the outfield anymore, the utility of him goes down. And in that case, the value of his bat is even lower. So I can understand the DFA, but for Astudillo, I mean, to be who he was on the field and to have the role he has, which is not a big role over the last handful of years and was pretty good in 2018, but the role that he's had over the last handful of years, it's really hard to make the impact that he did on a fan base and on the team. Like that's hard to do. And it takes a special kind of person and a special kind of teammate and a special kind of personality. And Astudillo is that. Could come back, if he clears and comes back, accepts an assignment, I believe is in the cards. But there's also a chance that this is the last we've seen of Willians Astudillo in the Twins organization. If it is, we wish him the best. Charlie Barnes, wish him the best. They were fun to talk about last year, and especially Astudillo in the last couple of years. Didn't get to see Barnes as much, but fun to talk about. And, we wish him the best in the future. But I think these 6 guys the Twins added, hopeful that at least 3 of them we will see in 2022. Those guys being Miranda, Winder, and potentially Lewis. I think there's a chance you see Sands. We'll not see Enlow in the majors, almost certainly in 2022 as he comes back from Tommy John. And then Chris Valmont probably is going to be at AAA. We'll see if the Twins move him to the bullpen. But the Twins add 6. Miranda, exciting. Lewis, exciting. And the pitchers, too. I mean, we'll see next year. Can't wait to watch. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day. Go Twins. We'll be back on Monday. Let me know your thoughts on the Twins Rule 5 protections. Also, Jake Cave. I know there's a lot of opinions, which I understand. I want to thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. Now make Locked On Bets your second listen. It's your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. Thanks again. Have a great day. Have a great weekend, and go Twins.